the channel, hope you're doing really well. In this video, I'm going to give you a tour of my home theater. But first, if you like the video, please drop a like on it as it really helps me out. Hit the subscribe button followed by the bell notification so that you'll be notified when I upload the next video. But let's not waste any more time, let's get into it. Before I start the tour, I'll give a quick breakdown of the space itself. I wanted a room that had limited points of light entry so that when you're in there watching something, you can be fully immersed. This meant I had to design the room from the ground up, starting with the dimensions. The room is 3.6 meters wide by 4.6 meters deep, has a sunken floor making the total height of the room 10 feet. I also put a raised podium at the rear to allow for a second row of seating to cater for my family of 5 and sometimes more when my kids have their friends over. The walls are insulated with sound deadening material and are also painted in matte black to limit any light reflections, which can be quite distracting. I have a nice plush pile carpet, much to my wife's disgust, but it also adds to the nice feel underfoot as I upgraded the underlay as well. It also has sound absorbing properties, so it served two purposes quite well. There is a bulkhead going around the perimeter of the room, which allows me to put my Atmos speakers and rear surrounds in, as the recliner at the back is hard against the wall, meaning my rear surrounds cannot be placed at ear level. So let's start with the speakers and the selections that I've made. The setup is a Dolby Atmos 7.2.4 setup, meaning there are 7 speakers for front left, center, right, 2 side surround speakers, and 2 rear surrounds which cover 360 degrees of sound. The 0.2 is for the subwoofers, and the 0.4 is for the height or Atmos channels. So for the front sound stage, I went with Klipsch RP150M. These are a bookshelf speaker but have good projection, clarity and volume. The reason I didn't go with the RP250Fs is that unfortunately the minimum height requirement meant that the tops of the speakers would go across the screen. Honestly, it's a point that bugs me, but really in a room of this size I can tell you these Klipsch speakers do an amazing job, and in my opinion much better than some of the floor standing counterparts I've tested. For the center channel, and in my way of thinking, the most important speaker in the whole setup, for reasons I'll explain in a moment, I went with the Klipsch RP250C. This speaker is unreal, and considering movies have a lot of dialogue, this speaker needs to handle the vocals, and which is why I went with this speaker. You see, it's all about scale. Because my room is quite small, anything large would have been overpowering, and I went with something that was high quality but very scaled to the room size. For my rear surrounds and height Atmos channels, I chose the Klipsch CDT2650C version 2s. These are a fantastic mid-range speaker and provide clear and precise audio for overhead sounds played through Atmos, as well as having directional tweeter which you can aim at the seated area. These Atmos speakers add a realism to the movies that have DTS and Atmos encoding. Movies like John Wick, Mad Max, and pretty much any other action movie that has been made since 2015 and has the encoding. It sounds amazing. For my left and right surrounds, I went with monitor audio WSS430. The reason I went with these is due to my wall cavities on both sides being under 90mm, and none of the Klipsch speakers that I wanted would fit in the wall. I did a lot of research on options and decided on these monitor audio speakers, and they are really clear, and in the movie Fury at the end, which has the tank battle, these speakers pumped out such realistic gunfire ricochets, it just felt like you were there. Moving on to the subwoofers, I chose 2 wireless subs from Klipsch, which are the 12-inch R12SWIs. I went with wireless subs because I chose to have all of the processing gear such as the Apple TVs, amplifiers and the servers which run the home theater in a different room of the house, and also because subwoofer placement is so dependent on testing, I couldn't really pick a spot for them up front. As it stands now, I have one at the rear and one at the front, and after a lot of trial and error I have them in the perfect spot to get the full effect of bass no matter where you are in the room. To power the speakers I needed 2 amps. I went with the Pioneer LX VSX503, which is a 9-channel amp but has the ability to process 2 additional channels. This means it can process 11 channels but power only 9 of them. I purchased a fairly affordable 2-channel amp and I have my 2 front Atmos channels going through it, as the sound clarity required for Atmos is a lot less than say the front center channel. All my testing has proven really good. The reason I went this way predominantly is because of the price difference between a 9-channel and 11-channel amp. At the time, it was over $1,000 for a decent one. Look, anyway, it worked out well and I'm happy with it, so let's move on to the projector. I wanted 4K, and back in late 2018, when I made the actual purchase of the projector, 4K projectors were super expensive. I went into various places around Sydney and road tested their projectors, and although you can tell marginal improvement with native 4K, it just wasn't enough for me to justify paying double. I went with a very good performing Epson EH TW9300, which is a 4K rated projector using pixel shift technology. This was a little nostalgic for me, as my very first projector I purchased was a native 1080p projector back in 2007 when literally no one had home theatres. The screen is a 120-inch Elite screen that I purchased from a local distributor here in Sydney. It's 16:9 in ratio, and although I could have gone with a CinemaScope screen of 2.35:1 or 2.40:1, I decided to go with a 16:9 screen so that I could watch TV series in full screen mode rather than having the sides cropped. I can change this later if I find that I do end up watching more movies in here than TV series, but for now this screen works really well. To run the home theatre itself, I have a bit of a complex setup that I won't get into too much detail here. I have an Apple TV 4K, which is the sole device I use to play movies and stream other content, but I have my other private movie server set up on my Synology NAS, as well as an Apple Mac Mini server. I won't go into details of that in this video, as the setup is pretty complex and detailed, and it would warrant its own video. Needless to say, PLEX and Apple Movies stream really nicely. I do wonder when Apple will be updating their Apple TV 4K though. The next component was a huge job because part of it was done after construction. I'll explain that a little later, but being that I'm obsessed with RGB, some of you may know this if you've seen my other videos, I wanted to have fully customizable lighting. I chose LIFX as the platform as the API allows you to interface with the lights directly and make them do cool things such as change colors to suit the movie you're watching, dim the lights completely when you press play, or bring them back up when you press pause. I went with 6 GU10 downlight bulbs in the bulkhead with some really nice custom downlights which have a rim around them, creating a directional type of feel reminiscent of a movie set. I then installed 3 sets of LIFX Z strips, one at the rear under the main recliner, one at the stair tread so you don't trip in the dark, and one under the sound stage at the front. These strips create a really nice ambience. As you can see here, I love red and blue. It's such a classic combo, and in many movies such as Star Wars and games like World of Warcraft, blue and red are the opposites. And as they are opposite on the color wheel, those two colors complement each other really well. Now, once I had the lights installed, I modified a Python script I found online to interface with my PLEX media server using webhooks. When I pause or play, it will activate the lights and change the color profiles accordingly. This is probably my favorite feature of the home theatre. Leave a comment down below if you're interested in learning more about that. And while you're down there, hit the like button if you haven't already. Now, the recliners I chose were from emmersed, which is a local furniture company in Australia, and they are very comfortable. They have head and leg reclining options, as well as USB chargers and LED lights built in, all managed from these button controls. They suit the room's look and feel, and I'm really happy with them so far. The last couple of things I have are these foam boards which act as acoustic panels. Not the best acoustic panels, but they do work, and they have some of my favourite characters printed on them. I made these myself and they turned out pretty well, I think. The directional lights that illuminate them only work with a light switch at the moment, but LIFX are releasing a new light switch soon which can control non-smart light. I'm really excited about this as I'll be able to program them to come on with the LIFX lights in the future. Anyway, that's a quick rundown of the theatre. I'll roll a quick montage before my final comments. guys, that concludes the home theatre tour. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. I've left links in the description for some of the things that I've used to set up this home theatre, so yeah, consider checking those out as well. Please drop a like on the video if you liked it, it would really help me out, and also consider subscribing if you enjoy content like this, and you'll see me in the next video. Bye for now.